Tonight on Lowdown, we're sitting down with Study Abroad to talk about what they offer students here on campus. We'll learn more about the Canary Scholar Program and talk with the illustration major. All this coming up next. Welcome back to Lowdown, a show by the students of the University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg. I'm Kylie Danny. Thanks for joining us this evening as we continue to dive into all the cool things happening here at UCM. Speaking of, let's learn what Study Abroad program has to offer students here on campus. Okay, we're here with Matt Chiesi today to talk about the Study Abroad program. Can you tell us your relation in that program?
Yeah, I'm the coordinator for Study Abroad here, so I'm the coordinator.
Can you tell us what the Study Abroad program really is about?
So the Study Abroad program, I guess if you say what's it all about, it's about getting, adding to the education that you're getting here at UCM through really an experiential learning format. There's a lot of learning that can't happen here, and there's a lot of learning that you need to be out there to see things, whether even if it's like an internship, here in the States, or if you're actually getting a chance to go and learn, to see different people from other cultures and to learn, how other people live in the world and get that different perspective. That just really can't happen, here on campus.
So what exactly do students that study abroad experience when they do, and how has that changed with COVID?
So I mean. It's hard to answer, what's that experience like, because there's so many different types of experiences. The funny thing is that we talk about in the industry whenever I go to a conference or when I'm meeting with colleagues from other universities is the amazing effect. When you ask somebody, how was your trip? And they come back with really big eyes at you and say, it was amazing. Making relationships, building friends, getting those experiences that are, seeing different people live in different ways, and even, learning from a teacher who's abroad, learning from their experiences and being able to kind of encapsulate that while you're getting credit abroad. It can definitely be frightening to some students when you think about, your travel, making sure you have everything. Who's going to be my roommate while I'm abroad, or, am I going to like my teachers? Are my classes going to be hard? So there's definitely a lot of, there can be a lot of anxiety, but I think when you really start to break things down one thing at a time, that, each step becomes possible. And I think a lot of students feel very independent after they've kind of conquered, some of their fears and anxieties, and been able to have a successful study abroad time. I think there's a lot of independence and confidence that comes from that. In the time of COVID, it's definitely a struggle. We worked with a little over 30 students who were abroad at the time when some of the travel bans were starting to happen and when the concerns were happening. Our first student to return was actually in Italy. So there's definitely a lot of concern about safety, about ability to travel safely and have mobility. But I think we did a really good job. We have great partners that help us abroad, and they were keeping in touch with us. They were keeping in touch with the students, with the parents, and it was definitely stressful, way more stressful coming back last spring than it normally would have been. Normally students are like, well, in both cases I think students usually don't want to leave by the time they've actually gotten there and got settled in. But it was definitely stressful, and we were able to work with parents and families and get students back. And one of the big things at the end of spring and the beginning of summer was actually figuring out, okay, if a student had expenses to come back, what are those expenses, and can the CARES Act funds cover those? And that was a really big help for a lot of students to help them with any financial situation that might have put them in. So it was So a lot of things changed in terms of the circumstances, but actually, in terms of us making sure that the students are getting credit, making sure that they're safe, making sure that we know when they're coming back and do they need any assistance. We do a lot of that in a normal semester too. It was just kind of all at once, at the end there, trying to make sure every student got back and make sure that they could complete their classes or not. We did cancel study abroad at the end of spring. It's been canceled for the summer. It's also canceled for fall right now, and it's also canceled for the upcoming spring too. But we are hoping that students will be able to travel in May, June, and July. Hopefully things will work out for the better there. And in anticipation of that, we're talking with teachers who are leading programs abroad, having information sessions with students on a weekly basis, and getting information out, encouraging students to apply for summer programs, and walking them through that process. Say, hey, what's this like? What's it going to cost? How do the payments work out? How does the tuition work out? And making sure that everything's really clear for them.
What would you recommend a student looking into studying abroad to do?
Okay, yeah. So right now, if a student's interested in studying abroad, the key thing is, when are you graduating? If you're graduating this May, then we can definitely try to help you put something together. We'll talk with your advisor, see if there's a summer program that can work for you. If you're graduating next fall, kind of the same thing. We can try to see what we can put together so that we can make sure that somebody gets an opportunity to do it. For students who are maybe freshmen or sophomores, and if they're on the fence about studying abroad, I'd say, let's wait a year. Let's do a little bit of research, look at our website, come in for some open advising or something like that, or set up a Zoom meet, whatever works, so that we can talk about possible options and then start saving up a little bit, start planning your classes for now, for like a 2022 study abroad or something like that.
Can you tell us why you think it's important that students should get a study abroad opportunity?
Yeah, well, just as a caveat to that, I'm not here to make every student study abroad. I know that that's not a good fit for everybody, whether their personality or their career goals or even their class schedule. But the reason why I think studying abroad is so valuable is just that, like I said earlier, there's things that you can learn while you're abroad that you just can't learn from being here. When I went to my first kind of study abroad experience was in China, and I realized that my world was too small and that the world outside is a lot bigger. There's a lot of things in China that I didn't like the way they did, but actually they kind of did their own thing that was a way that it worked for them, and made me realize, maybe there's things that work that seem different to me. I think also seeing your field through a practitioner or an academic while they're abroad, or even if you're going with a UCM teacher and going abroad, you get to see their perspective on your field, and you get to kind of learn from that and synergize with that and get that real life experience, which it's so hard to find on a college campus, I think, sometimes.
What made you want to get involved in the study abroad program here at UCM?
Yeah, so I've been blessed a lot in my life to be able to travel, either academically or with different groups, and it has impacted my life in so many positive ways, and it was always worth it. Sometimes it's difficult to think, well, should I make this trip? Can I go on this trip? Can I do this in another country? And you look at maybe some of the expenses that you have for that versus money that you could be making while you're here or something like that. When I look back, it just opened doors in so many ways. I didn't originally want to be a study abroad coordinator. I wanted to be a musician, and it was a music trip that I took that took me internationally, and that got me interested later on in actually being an English teacher to people who spoke other languages. And so I didn't teach abroad, but I did get to travel abroad because I was really interested in that. And that actually opened up a door for me that when they needed some help with the study abroad office about 4 years ago, I was able to kind of step in. And then the other thing that I really like doing about that I like doing in my job is, it's not just about sending people abroad or learning about other countries. It's also, UCM students are so pragmatic. A lot of people are getting a degree so they can do a job. And the chance that they have to do that is really amazing. And if I get to help them kind of kill two birds with one stone, so you can get your degree credits and graduate on time and get all these extra experiences that other students here in Missouri can't. I think that's really awesome to me, and that's exciting. I also like helping students, trying to figure out things and supporting them when they do need some help.
Okay, do you have anything you'd like to add or advice for anybody wanting to study abroad?
Yeah, I think the big advice is just really don't be scared of it and just go. Really don't be afraid to look into it, because even if you think it's too expensive, you probably can find a program that's actually going to be affordable. If you think it's too scary, you might be able to find a program that's actually going to have enough support that makes you feel comfortable. So I think really don't be afraid of it and just go.
All right, well, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We're here with Han Pfeiffer to talk about being an illustration major here on UCM campus. So can you tell us what your focus is being an illustration major here on campus and what you do with that major?
I'm wanting to get into storyboarding for animation studios, like for TV and movies. I mostly focus on drawing and then like fixing it through the computer.
So what kind of classes would you be taking for that specific major?
Well, right now I'm taking Drawing 3 and Advanced Illustration 1, but then next semester I need to take Advanced Illustration 2 before I graduate. It's a lot of illustration classes, so you end up working with the same people a bunch of times.
So how would you describe your artwork? Do you have a certain style?
I've been told that it's like a clash between Disney and anime, and I never intentionally made it that way, but a lot of people I follow were working in that sort of sphere of Disney animation, so I think it rubbed off on me as the years went by. But my mom says that I have a style completely unique to myself, so that's cool.
So what would you say is your biggest inspiration for most of your artwork?
I would say that, as cheesy as it sounds, the DreamWorks movie Rise of the Guardians got me into doing art as a career more than a hobby. And I wanted to work at DreamWorks from 2014 or so, but then my vision expanded and I just want to work anywhere that'll hire me, basically.
How would you say you got your start in art?
I want to say that I started as far back as I can remember, drawing little stick figures. And I think my dad was the biggest influence on me in my early days, because he's an architect, but he also draws super realistically, and I tried to emulate that, and then I started doing my own thing and it looked more cartoony. But yeah, I know that you don't inherit traits like that, but I feel that it's genetic with me.
What would you say is your favorite material to work on?
What my favorite medium is?
Yes, your favorite medium.
As unprofessional as it is, I like to use those little office pencils that are yellow and plastic, and you roll the tip of it to expand it, because they have an eraser attached to them, and I don't like to reach over and grab the eraser and stuff. But then after that, I use the fancy expensive pens to ink it over, and then I color it on the computer.
What would you say the time span to complete one piece of work is for you, on average?
For my average stuff, I say it takes about an afternoon. If I want to do something complex, flesh out a background for the character or object to be in, I'd say it takes from noon to evening. So I often have very mixed up eating schedules.
What's your favorite art piece that you've ever done?
Oh geez. I like to honestly build on what I do every time, so I try to make every piece I do my favorite, better than the last one. But I think that's just a part of life. But most recently, I made this piece that's intended to be a sticker once I get to a sticker maker so I can distribute it to my friends, for this HBO movie, Bad Education, that I really, really liked. So I did the stars from that, and it was a lot of fun. It didn't have a fleshed out background, but it was like simplistic, and I like to keep things like contained in a palette, so I don't go like overboard or so it's not an eyesore. So that was a lot of fun.
What would you say your biggest challenge is to be an illustration major?
I'd say as much as I study the human body, it's also very hard to draw sometimes. And a lot of times people's biggest problem is hands, and that happens to be a thing for me. Drawing men is hard. I think harder than drawing women, but maybe that's just because of who I am. And because my art is really centered around people, I often don't give myself enough practice with objects, so that's kind of tough, and also most animals.
Very understandable. What would you say is like the easiest part of being an art major? Or the most rewarding aspect of it?
It's definitely when you get to draw the things you like in your free time, and then like you tag the creator or the star in it and they like it. Like, it happens very rarely, and it depends on like how big the person is, but when they like it, no matter how like good or bad it is, it definitely fuels me. Like, a long time ago I made this piece of a character from Black Mirror, and I tagged her in it, and she liked it, and looking back on the piece now, I'm like, ew. But I'm still so happy that she loved it, so it means everything, honestly. That's the most rewarding part.
What would you say the biggest thing that you need in order to be a good artist?
I would say you need to have your own style and to be prepared to grow, because if you stay dormant in the same style, you're just going to lag behind everybody else. And on the flip side of that, if you keep comparing yourself to other people's styles or trying to copy somebody else's style verbatim, it's going to look disingenuous.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're here with Dr. Esvito today to talk about the McNair Scholarship Program and what they have to offer for students here at UCM. Can you tell us a little bit what the McNair Scholarship is?
The McNair Scholars Program is a federally funded grant through the Department of Education, and we serve students who are first generation, which means their parents don't have bachelor's degrees, first generation college students, low income students, and students who are underrepresented by race or ethnicity in graduate programs. And we help them prepare to be successful applicants to graduate programs and to be successful once they get there.
Can you tell us how the McNair Scholar Program got started?
Well, it's been funded on campus since 1991, but it originally started in the late 1980s. The Department of Education and actually Congress, U.S. Congress, was funding educational programs, and this was one that they wanted to fund to help launch people. The main goal is to diversify the professoriate. So we help undergraduates, and then they can go to graduate school, and then they can become college professors and come back and serve and be in college campuses and help raise up other students.
Can you tell us your role in the McNair Scholar Program?
Oh, sure. I'm the academic coordinator. So I work one-on-one with the students as a role model, and I do all the academic programming and that kind of thing. Yes.
Can you tell us some of the benefits of the McNair Scholars Program?
Oh, well, McNair Scholars have an opportunity to have paid research internships. So they get experience as an undergraduate being a paid researcher. They also have 3 faculty mentors, so they get mentored by faculty members. They have a faculty mentor team, kind of mirrors and is very similar to a graduate committee when they're in graduate school, only their faculty mentors on campus are there to support them, to prepare them for graduate school. We travel to conferences, we have campus visits, and lots of other opportunities for our scholars.
Can you tell us a little bit about the mentoring process, the different kinds of mentors that they have?
Oh, yes. So every scholar is assigned a librarian, and based on their expertise area, will match the students, and their librarian will work with them. The scholars are in the program for about the last 2 years, like junior and senior year. So the librarians will work with them so that when they go anywhere, they can access information in any library anywhere. Just learn those skills before they have to go to graduate school, or before they get to go to graduate school and do those things. They also have a discipline mentor, helps them prepare for graduate school, like what graduate programs they would like to be in, why, what's the best fit for you, where's you're going to apply, and then help you through the whole application process so that when it's time to apply, you're not doing it all by yourself. And the research mentor is the one who works with you. Every McNair Scholar gets to plan their own research project, which is funded through our program. And the research mentor helps guide them through the whole process. It's a lot like a small-scale master's thesis or even dissertation research project, but you get a faculty mentor. The research mentor will help guide you through that process and teach you everything about research now as an undergraduate, so then when you go to graduate school, you can be very successful working on your master's thesis or your dissertation.
Tell us what the schedule for a McNair Scholar kind of looks like.
Oh, sure. So we take applications usually the fall of your junior year. And then we basically start working right away. We take a group of students who come in as a McNair cohort, and you will go through the McNair Scholars go through all of the activities together, and they're a cohort of about 16 scholars or so we take every fall. And we have regular weekly meetings, research, academic issues, teaching about research, teaching about graduate school, funding for graduate school, how to apply for grad school, all those things. And about weekly we have sessions, and then individually the students are working with their mentors and planning their own research projects.
What would you say is a good characteristics for a McNair Scholar to have coming into the program?
Well, one of the main things is you have to be interested in going to graduate school or learning how to be a researcher, because that's a big part of the program. Just inquisitiveness, interest in your area. You can be in any major, but whatever your area is, like, you just want to learn more about it. And so we're there to support everybody for what their interests are. So that's really wonderful that you can just be any area, any major.
Is there any prior knowledge that a scholar needs to come in with in order to join?
Oh, no. It helps if we cannot pay anybody for a paid summer internship unless they've already got the junior status. So we don't really take students when they're freshmen or sophomores because we can't pay you to be an intern for the summer. But really, no, just an interest in investing in your own future, really. Because every McNair Scholar is working really hard over and above their classwork and their regular jobs and all their other responsibilities. But being a McNair Scholar is basically working to benefit yourself for your own future. And so just being willing to work really hard towards that. And we'll jump on board and help guide you through that and help you get ready.
What made you want to work in the McNair Scholar program and help other students?
Oh, I actually didn't even know the McNair Scholars program existed. And there's only, right now there's only about 180 programs nationwide. They're not very common. There's only 5 in Missouri. But I knew somebody who was a McNair Scholar before I even knew what it was. And he was really successful, and I just knew that he had done something called McNair when he was in college. And he just did really well. And I was like, hey, I heard about it. And I was like, isn't that thing? And it was actually, for those of you who are familiar with UCM campus, it was Dr. Skip Crooker. And he was a student here. And he was actually in the very first McNair class back in '91. He got his PhD in economics, came back. He was a faculty member here for a long time. He also served as associate dean, and he served as the director of institutional research. And he has gone to a different university now for another position. But he's the reason I was even in tune to it at all, because it's just a thing that he had done. Skip wasn't that thing Skip did. And I saw it, and I'm a first-generation low-income student, and I didn't know anything about graduate school when I was in college. And if it wasn't for people who stepped in to help me, I never would have made it into grad school or been successful when I got there. But other people stepped in to help me, and so I really feel strongly about stepping in and helping other students the way I was helped.
Do you have anything to add about the McNair Scholarship that you haven't already said? Or any advice for
just
students?
Be prepared. When you're a McNair Scholar, be prepared to have your entire life changed. We see scholars come in and they kind of think they know what they want to do, or maybe they don't, and they just want somebody to give them a chance, and they want opportunities. And so we open doors for them, and then they go through the doors, and they are very accomplished. They achieve great things. We have, of the history of our program on campus, I think it's around 75 people have finished their doctorates. We have several people like teaching on campus now. We have a couple of judges, a couple of, there's professional people all over the country who are McNair Scholars who are doing amazing things. And I like to be on the front end and tell students, like, you will be able to do amazing things too, and let's help you get to wherever you want to go. And that's the best and most rewarding thing about it.
All right, well, thanks for joining us today.
Well, I appreciate the chance to talk to you. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that glimpse into university life here in Warrensburg. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for tonight. But don't worry, the show in its entirety and individual segments can be found on our KMS TV YouTube page. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Kylie Danick. Good night.